Assalamu alaikum guys, and welcome to another episode of Smile to Jannah. Guys, this is a very much requested episode, but I've got a lot to talk about, so let's jump into this. So, our beloved Afghanistan is known as the graveyard of empires. So it's called that because in the 19th century, Britain tried to colonize it. Thereafter, the Soviet Union, which I guess the main part of the Soviet Union is modern day Russia, they tried to colonize it. And recently, the Americans have tried to colonize it for the last 20 years, only to be left humiliated and defeated.
Ryan Crocker, he called the way this was done, quote, a handover to the Taliban, and quote, we have hung them out to dry about the Afghan people.
It's clear the Taliban's advance caught the government by surprise. Dominic Raab only came back from holiday today, for instance, a decision that Labour said was shameful.
America's attempt to export liberal democracy to Afghanistan is well and truly over.
Now, some context. Back when the Taliban were fighting the Soviet Union, modern day Russia, America and her allies funded the Taliban. Yeah, in fact, you can see video footage of Americans going over and saying,
we know of their deep belief in God, and we are confident that their struggle will succeed.
You know,
that land over there is yours. You'll go back to it one day because your fight will prevail and you'll have your homes and your mosques back again because your cause is right and God is on your side.
So they didn't care about their views on religion then or their views on women then. In fact, this newspaper cutting, you can see Osama bin Laden called courageous when he's fighting the Soviets. So it's worth understanding that this is not the first time this has happened. Yeah, America's done this with ISIS as well.
We saw that Daesh was growing in strength, and we thought Assad was threatened. We thought, however, we could probably manage, that Assad might then negotiate.
They allowed ISIS to grow just so they could give pressure to Bashar al-Assad. And there's numerous other examples, yeah? So then, of course, 9/11 happened, and then the US decided to invade Afghanistan as an act of revenge.
We went to Afghanistan 20 years ago with one mission in mind, and that was to deal with the people who attacked us on 9/11.
But some people are of the opinion that they did it to destabilize Afghanistan. Some say it was to actually colonize it because it was in a key location, yeah? Joining the east to the west, and you've got key nations joining it as well. Others claim it was to pass a oil pipeline through. Some point to the fact of the $1 trillion mineral reserves in that country. Whilst others would say it's probably because of the enormous opium and heroin industry. But I think the safe answer is to assume that it's all of the above. Yeah. So a bit of backdrop about what's gone on in Afghanistan, because you don't get people like the Taliban and ISIS that come from a vacuum. War crimes that the West has, heart-wrenching war crimes. Yeah. So here you can see this from New York Times. Sexual abuse taking place. Number 2, killing innocent Afghanis point blank. Yeah, point blank. Now, the Australian government has publicly acknowledged this. And of course, drone attacks. Yeah, which kill 90% civilians. And also, since the quote unquote war on terror, 2,000 Afghani children have been murdered. Yeah, now this was leaked by Daniel Hayer. Yeah, from the inside. And because of that, obviously he's being held for treason and this and that. And he's also paying the price in jail as well. But he gave us a really good insight into the damage that is actually happening or was happening in Afghanistan. So then you had the Taliban feeling more emboldened and the people waiting for them to come back. Yeah, and the US, they weren't particularly as committed because I'm sure you know US is the one nation on the planet that has the most military bases, the most military expenditure, the only country to drop a atom bomb, and the list goes on. Yeah, here you can see on the side. Like, you don't hear this stuff. You don't hear this stuff. Because the US wasn't able to commit to Afghanistan that much, then Taliban were gaining ground, yeah? So they realized that this was happening and defeat was imminent, so they started talks, yeah? They started talks with the Taliban, and recently they've agreed, yeah, we're gonna leave. We've had enough, we can't do any more, but just give us safe passage out. And to the public, they've said, yeah, stop, don't allow terrorism to take place, give rights to women and that sort of stuff. So whatever we may think, the debate is not, are Taliban good, are Taliban bad? The Taliban are in power now, and they've been accepted as being in power by the big nations.
So you acknowledge that the Taliban has won the war?
I don't know about a win. I think I acknowledge that the Taliban are in control of the country. I mean, you don't have to be a political scientist to spot that's where we're at.
In fact, Taliban have had talks with Iran and China and America. So it looks like they're playing a different kind of approach this time, the Taliban.
There's little violence so far, but a lot of panic.
Their properties, their lives are safe. There will be no revenge on anyone. We are the servant of the people and of this country. There are hundreds of schools for girls, universities there where the girls students are studying. There is no restriction on them. They are continuing their studies and they are going to schools. They were going in the past. Women can have access to education and to work, and of course they will observe the hijab. That's it.
But I think one of the things that we've been seeing last couple of days is the succession in which the cities have been falling one after another.
It took the armed group less than 10 days to sweep across every province.
And I guess there's a few reasons for this, yeah? So A, because people support them. B, the Afghan army relied on US support. So when US took away its air support, the Afghan army couldn't really do much. So yeah, they just changed their clothes, put their weapons down, and the Taliban came, and that was it. And C, people were sick and tired of this puppet government that was propped up by the West, by America. Yeah. So the unjust and the rapes and all this was taking place. It's ironic because now people are talking about women's rights, but in these 20 years, people weren't talking about rights because it was them that was abusing the rights. So like I said, although we're hearing, terrorism and women's rights, but that's not what the US is saying. And if that's the reason, then you can't leave if you think that that is still a problem. You know what I'm saying?
I think most of our strategic competitors around the world would like nothing better than for us to remain in Afghanistan for another year, 5 years, 10 years, and have those resources dedicated to being in the midst of a civil war. It's simply not in our interest.
So you see, Afghan lives don't matter. So despite what they say to the media, if it mattered to them so much, why on earth would they leave like this?
The issue here is not just the withdrawal of U.S. forces, it's how they were withdrawn. The rapidity, the hastiness.
You can see footage of Afghans clamoring on to an aeroplane and trying to leave because they're confused. They don't know what's happening, what's going to happen. And the aeroplane is taking off and people are saying, look, people are falling from the aeroplane because they tied themselves on there. But the question should be, why on earth is the aeroplane taking off when there's people attached to it? It's because these people have become dehumanized. People are saying, oh, we better not have immigrants, mate. Hang on a minute. Afghanis didn't come here. You went there. You chose to go there. You interfered. For 20 years, you messed up. And now you're coming back with your tail between your legs. And now you don't want to deal with the consequences. And this whole talk of, yeah, we don't support terrorism and we support women's rights. Hang on a minute. Two of the greatest allies of America, Israel, yeah, a terrorist state, and of course Saudi, who, let's face it, people don't agree with their dealings with women, but yet the US seems to be okay with them. Yeah, so what's the problem with the Taliban? If these are your two criterion. So, in conclusion, what does the future hold? There's, I think, two main questions that I had, which is America really out? And we've seen enough case studies where, on the face of it, America leaves, but they enter through the back door. What do I mean by that? What I mean is they still exert control over that country, but it's through sanctions, international pressure, and of course the surrounding countries there as well. And number two, people don't know how the Taliban are going to be. 20 years ago, they had a certain way of doing things. Now they're saying how things are going to be slightly different. So only time will tell. Bottom line is they are in power, and all we can do is pray, educate ourselves on the matter, not rely on the Western media's narrative, because this is how they sold us the war in the first place. So that's why I can't take these news seriously. You got some people saying Taliban are taking young girls as slaves and this and that, but then Taliban are saying no, that's clear propaganda by the government that's just been ousted. So it does make sense. Obviously in war, you are going to get people saying all sorts of things. So who knows? But inshallah, that's not the case. We pray that the Afghanis have peace, and we obviously you guys can donate. There's aid workers there as well. So inshallah, things go better this time. But we carry on watching the news. I wouldn't say rely too much on the CNN and the BBC and the Skies. Balance it with Al Jazeera as well, and other news outlets from different countries, to get a broader kind of picture. Alright guys, I'm going to leave it there. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum.